Hello and welcome back to my OOTP 20 series here with the Toronto Blue Jays. So it's been a little bit, currently creating a studio space downstairs, so if it's a little echoey upstairs here, that is why. But where we left off was about halfway through the 2020 season, which means, unfortunately, we have to talk about how things have gone thus far, and the answer is not very good. We have fired our manager, but I will get to that in a little bit. I think one of the biggest disappointments really has been the pitching staff. Chris Sale was kind of our big get during the offseason, and the strikeout to walk ratio has been really, really good, but giving up a bunch of home runs, maybe a little bit unlucky as well. That ERA is a bit high. I'm not certainly as worried about this version of Chris Sale as the real version of Chris Sale, who is throwing 89 miles an hour this year, so that has me pretty worried as a Red Sox fan. With the rest of our rotation, though, you can see Eduardo Rodriguez, an ERA over 5. A lot of walks this year, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 5.8 per 9 innings. Still a lot of strikeouts, so I'm hoping that this is just a bit fluky and he'll turn it around. Andrew Heaney, that ERA looks great, but I'm pretty concerned with his strikeout numbers. You can see in previous years it's been around 8 or 9, and this year it's dropped to about 6. So I think that really needs to increase if he's going to be continuing to be successful. I mean, you can see the batting average on balls in play is 184, so I don't think that is going to continue. With the rest of our rotation, Sean Reed-Foley has been quite awful with an 8.3 ERA, but the BABIP is very high. Hopefully that turns around a little bit. He's definitely going to have to walk less people and give up less home runs, though. He also gave up a bunch of home runs last season, so I'm not too optimistic about that, especially given his low movement rating. And then rounding out the rotation is Matt Schumacher. Not too much to say there. He's been pretty consistent for us, and he'll be making the rest of the starts this year. I forget why he was in the bullpen to start the year. Anyway, as far as our bullpen goes, Craig Kimbrell, I mean, I say a lot of people are walking too many people. Craig Kimbrell especially, 6.1 walks per 9 innings. The strikeout rate is a little bit down too. Obviously, the BABIP is crazy high. So a lot of things kind of leading up to a not so great season thus far for Craig Kimbrell, but hoping he will turn it around. David Robertson has been really, really good. And I would say really it's just the long relievers who have been kind of a disappointment. You can see Bud Norris, again, just walking a ridiculous amount of people. And Barucki, who had a pretty good season last year out of the bullpen, not so much this year. So I don't really know if he's cut out for the big leagues. You can see the BABIP is pretty low, so it's not like he's super unlucky. That's just a lot of walks and not a lot of strikeouts to be giving up. So we'll give him a little bit more of a chance, but starting to lose a little bit of hope on Barucki. And then offensively, yikes. Danny Jansen has had a great year, and so has Kevin Pillar. And in fact, Pillar has been not really asking for a whole lot of money for an extension. However, right around the beginning of the season, I picked up Zach Granite on waivers. And, Pillar just hasn't been that great year to year. He's doing really well so far this year in, about half a season. But I kind of view Zach Granite as an easy replacement for Pillar. Very similar, numbers, really good defense, not a lot of power. So I'd kind of rather have that cheap option where, the guy's just making the league minimum. I'll take that. Anyway, otherwise for our offense, Rowdy Tellez not doing too well. On-base percentage below 300, slugging percentage below 400. Not what you want to see out of a first baseman who doesn't really run or field well. Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero have been okay. In fact, Vlad has been injured a bunch this season. I mean, I say a bunch. It was just one injury, but it was a sprained thumb, so he missed a month. Bo Bichette, I'd say a bit of a step back, especially offensively so far this year. A bit of a sophomore slump. But that's okay. Not too worried about him, honestly. Then I called up some other kind of middle infielders here. You can see Richard Urena. I'm just going to keep him up for now. Good bench kind of utility guy, can play a bunch of positions. Same thing with Santiago Espinal. This was a guy that was just sitting in AAA to begin the season. Has not been playing well. But, I'm still going to keep him up for a little bit for sure. These guys are making the league minimum, so that's where we're really saving the money this year. Kevin Smith in his first big league season, so far looking about an average shortstop. Of course, he's only 23 years old and a rookie, so hopefully he can build off of this, I say early success. He's not been doing too bad. In the outfield, I'm a little frustrated about our manager. This is part of the reason I'm kind of getting rid of him, is he was playing Kai a lot versus left-handed pitchers, which you can see is just a terrible idea. And if we take a look at his batting stats and more specifically the splits, you can see that he's been doing a lot better versus righties. Not exceptionally well, but definitely better. And he just shouldn't be playing against lefties. I mean, I don't really know what our manager is thinking. Anyway, Josh Naylor, he's someone who we picked up on the Rule 5 draft, still only 22 years old, so going to be a little bit patient with him. But he's been not too great, so hopefully he can turn it around. Heading into the second half of the season, I mean, that kind of catches you up with the individual player stats, but what does that mean, overall? If we take a look at our offense, on-base plus slugging is 8th. So again, about average. Run score is 11th, so I think we're being a little bit unlucky just in terms of our offense. But the runs allowed, this is where we were really supposed to be improving, and it just has not improved. Our bullpen ERA has been pretty good, but our starters have just been bad. I mean, I was really hoping for something better than this. And at this point, I mean, if we take a look at the standings, especially the wild card standings, I mean, we are a good 7.5 games out. So it's not like we're out of it. It is early June, but I mean, this is really disappointing. There's no two ways about it. I certainly didn't expect to, win the division per se, but really hope that we would be competitive, and we just have not been. If we do take a look at the injured list, you can see Rangel Grichuk has a strained hamstring. He'll be coming back in a couple days. He's been offensively pretty good. He did win a Gold Glove last year. I don't think he should have, but he's still a decent fielder as well. So if he can play like that, I guess he'll be worth the $11.5 million we're paying him, but I don't think we'll be extending him next year. Anyway, I am excited about this draft because, let's see, what overall pick did we have? Yeah, the 6th overall pick. And I hope that the computer saved the skills of this guy. Yeah, Dylan Cruz. But I really like the looks of this Dylan Cruz. It says he has the potential to be a cornerstone player as a center fielder. And if you take a look at his ratings, I mean, I just really like the overall potential ratings, especially with the outfield defense that he brings to the table. He may not actually be a center fielder, but definitely could be a corner spot, no question. I think the other kind of main option was Danny Woolley, who absolutely does look very good, but I'm not a huge fan of his personality ratings. There's no bonus demand, which is a little bit worrying, I would say. With Cruz, the OSA ratings are right there as well, which at least always makes me feel better. I feel like there is some correlation with the OSA ratings. Whereas with Danny Woolley, he's certainly still good with the OSA ratings, but it's not really the same player. I just think pretty obviously those are the two top guys. If we do take a look at the pitchers, though, I just didn't really see a whole lot. This is a relief pitcher, so he doesn't really count. Butch Burts, he looks fine. I mean, I'd take him later in the draft. Good work ethic and everything, but that's just not who I would take as a 6th overall pick. I don't know. I just have a good feeling about Cruz, which I know is the stupidest reason to make a draft pick. I do hope I made the right decision there. You can see Danny Woolley fell all the way to 17th. In the next round here, our scout wants us to go with Tim Roberts. I don't think he's got the arm to be a catcher, and I don't think I'd stick him anywhere else. The offensive ratings, though, are very intriguing. I do like the look of this Bielicki. I'll definitely keep an eye on him. I just think the ratings are pretty hilarious. This is like almost Williams Astudillo-esque. I mean, especially with the OSA ratings. This Daniel Cabrera is coming up a lot, and I mean, he doesn't really look like a second-round talent to me, but he's still, like, the board is a little bit thin, and I think that's probably because we've got a better scout, so he actually kind of knows, what the actual ratings are going to be more. Good discipline and everything. I kind of want to draft this guy, honestly. Kind of a low ceiling but high floor player. I'm not seeing a whole lot that I like. I almost want to take a flyer on this guy, except that he's got low work ethic. Our head scout isn't a huge fan of his offense, but his defense is already incredible. And the OSA really likes his offensive ratings. And pitchers, I mean, I'm just finding nothing. If I just take a look kind of maybe at the control potential, someone like Kevin Abel stands out a little bit, but I just don't know that the stuff is really going to be there. I mean, I do kind of like the looks of him. I just don't know that he's a third-round pick. And our scout wants us to take Jordan Fowler, who I just don't think the control is there. I mean, I just really don't think he's a Major League starting pitcher. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to pick someone. But I'm not a huge fan of any of these people. Even though he has low work ethic, I think I'm going to go with this shortstop. And, I mean, the defense is there, so at least that's some versatility. maybe as a backup role or something down the road. And in the next round, our scout wants us to go with Tim Roberts. I feel like here in the 4th round, that is fine with me. Here in the 5th round, I think I'm going to go with JT Mounts, nickname John Tyler. I like the contact ratings, and I like the speed, and I like the defense, and I think as a center fielder, those are all pretty important traits. So I think that's who we're going to go with here in this. It's actually the 6th round. And here in the 7th round, our scout wants us to go with Griffin Bernardo. He's someone who I had taken a look at earlier. Seems like he could be a, kind of fine guy to pick up. I do like the looks, though, of this Willians Acidio clone, for lack of a better term. I think the defense is good enough, and I'd like to see how the offense plays out. So I think this round, I am going to go with him. And Bernardo still on the board here in the 8th round, so we'll pick him up too. And I think that's going to do it for the on-camera draft picks. I think I really like our 1st round pick. The rest of them, I don't know. I wasn't too thrilled. Okay, so we have simmed ahead a few days. We have officially signed Bob Melvin to be our new manager. I know in the previous offseason, we had briefly talked about this possibility, and I just didn't like that he had a bad relationship with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I still don't like that, but he is supposed to have an excellent development influence, and he's an experienced manager, which I like, and our team has just been terrible under Montoyo, so I thought it was time for a change. I also got a new pitching coach. I kept our hitting coach, at least for now. Chuck Krim is our new pitching coach, so whatever, man. I have no idea who he is, but we just needed a different coach. And apparently Mike Trout hit his 300th home run, so that's cool. Okay, so we have simmed ahead to the international free agents. Let's take a quick look at the standings so you can see we're 13.5 games back in the division. Red Sox are playing well. We are now 6 games out in the wild card, so a little bit better, I guess, although certainly not the position that we want to be in. We did have one injury. It was Kevin Pillar, who is going to be out for another 3 to 4 weeks with a fractured finger. So in the meantime, I have called up Forrest Wall, who, I don't know, I guess he can run fast. Anyway, if we take a look at the international free agents this year, you can see that there are more of them. I turned up the frequency of them from the last season. Got some interesting looking guys here with the ratings. I like the look of this Jorge Cabrales. He's a durable player, kind of good all-around guy. At least that's what it looks like right now. OSA ratings are, lining up with what my head scout is saying. So I think that's someone who we are going to offer a contract to. You can see he's demanding $3.2 million. I don't know. The other guys just kind of scare me. Like this guy, great power and contact potential, but I just don't know if that's really going to hold up. The OSA ratings are completely different. So that always just kind of scares me a bit. I think other than that, we're pretty much out of money. So we're just going to be taking a look at this Cabrales. Hopefully we sign him. Okay, so we do end up signing Cabrales, which is a good sign. I think I'm going to sim up to the All-Star break. Pretty soon we're going to have to decide whether we're going to be buyers or sellers at the deadline. And obviously, right now it's looking like sellers, but I really am hoping that we can turn it around a bit. Not gonna lie, I don't think we're going to, we're not gonna come back from that. So hopefully he comes back next season fully rested, and we can just forget about this season because, yeesh. Okay, so we have simmed ahead to the All-Star game. As you can see, the National League won the All-Star game with the help of Michael Conforto. Let's see if we had any All-Stars this year. Well, actually, we have to have an All-Star, of course. Yep, Andrew Heaney. Let's see if we had anybody else. David Robertson, Craig Kimbrell. Really? Craig Kimbrell? Seriously? Danny Jansen. And that's all. So, decent amount of All-Stars. I don't think Craig Kimbrell should be in there after the season he is having. But otherwise, that is exciting. Unfortunately, our playoff hopes still looking about the same. Obviously, they're a lot worse without Chris Sale anyway, but let's just sim ahead right to the trade deadline, and we'll kind of figure out what, if any, deals we want to do. I think it definitely makes sense to do some deals. Okay, so we are here on July 28th. Currently, we are 13.5 games out of the division, and we are 5.5 out of the wild card. So, I hate to be a seller. We're not doing that awful. I'd like to actually see how we do in this Minnesota series before I make any decisions here. So we lose against Minnesota, and in the second game, we win against Minnesota. Okay, still 5.5 back. Well, that doesn't make anything any easier. I mean, there's a lot of teams ahead of us, so I think it's unlikely that we really make a play, but I mean, like, what am I going to blow up here, you know? I mean, I could potentially trade some guys for sure. Like, I think it's worth seeing if anyone wants Pilar. Okay, so I think I found a deal that makes sense. The Astros want to give up Perez, who, I mean, his ratings look pretty good. He's 24 years old, only has just over a year of Major League service time. I would say hasn't really put it together, but, you know, a lot of walks. But I think someone who could definitely turn it around. The stamina is clearly a concern. 45 according to our head scout, but I mean, especially kind of in the age of openers, you know, he's an arm that could definitely help. And in fact, I really probably should be doing more of the kind of opener stuff. And actually, Luciano has been made a follower by Bob Melvin, so that's good. But, you know, another arm, and I feel like for half a season of Pilar, that's a pretty good deal. Interesting. So if I add Kloffenstein, then we could get Seth Beer, who I am always intrigued about in this game. He always seems to amount to something, even if he's a little bit slow in terms of his development. I don't know if that's too unfair, though. I mean, I know Seth Beer was unbelievable. I think it was like 2 versions of the game ago, but I mean, he's not really the same in this version of the game. I really think the trade AI in this game needs to be improved. Like, there's no reason. Why would the Astros want Pilar? I mean, he's not really an upgrade anywhere. It's a great game, though. Don't get me wrong, but I think that trade AI definitely needs an update. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to include Seth Beer. I just don't think that's quite realistic. I already like the deal with Perez, and I think that's a fine deal to make. I'm not going to worry about what the Astros are going to do with Pilar, but we'd only have another half season of him, and it's really a cost-controlled arm that we're getting in return, so I think that is good enough for us. Another guy to potentially shop around is Heaney. I mean, I think he's been pretty lucky. I do like this player that the Cubs are offering up. Pretty good defense, good speed. You know, really the only thing lacking is power. I also like his work ethic and intelligence. I don't know. I think he could be a major league player. They also want to give up Zach Short, who intrigues me. I wonder if we could kind of get them in some sort of a package deal. I'm sure we'd have to give up a little bit more. And they will do both of them. So I'm surprised about that. I've got the trading difficulty on hard. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can turn this down. Obviously, Heaney is still there, I think, for another year. Yeah, he's got another year of arbitration. Then he would go to free agency. So I just think this is a move that makes sense given where we are right now. Part of the reason I wanted to get rid of Heaney, too, is that his strikeout numbers just aren't the same. So I think that he's been pretty lucky, and I don't really think that's going to continue. And for a last possible trade, let's see if anybody wants Randall Grichuk. Really hope we can get some sort of arm for Grichuk. Okay, so this is the deal I'm definitely going to do. The Cardinals are willing to get rid of Alex Reyes, who has not really been able to put it together at all, but obviously this is someone who has been pretty good in the past, or at least was a pretty high prospect, so that's someone who I would definitely be willing to just try out given where we're at. But I might see if we can get someone else as well, because Alex Reyes really isn't the same player, it looks like. Okay, so it looks like we can also add this Junior Fernandez, who looks like a pretty solid relief pitching option, very young, 23 years old, and could probably be in the majors now. So I think that's going to be able to complete the trade for me. Again, this is just half a year of Grichuk. We're not going to re-sign him, so let's complete that deal. But, you know, obviously I think things are developing slower than I would have hoped. And, you know, to be honest, if we take a look at, you know, the prospects that we had at least last year, I think a lot of these core guys like Smith, Tellez, you know, they're turning out okay. But some of the people who we drafted last year, you know, really are not panning out. But I guess that's the thing about prospects, you know, they're prospects, so they may or may not turn out. Okay, but anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the off season, unless there is some sort of miracle.